Senator Sara Gonzales. Hi, I was just wondering why you keep voting to send our money to Ukraine.
Well, because I think it's in our national security interest to help them defend themselves.
Let me grab you over here. Pardon me, sorry.
Hey, why did you call Ken Paxton a criminal? Senator, why did you call Ken Paxton a criminal? Senator Cornyn doesn't want to answer to his constituents. Can you stop touching me, please? Thank you. He was touching. His butt was
Come on, give her access. What the hell?
Senator. All right, welcome to Come and Take It. I am Sara Gonzales here with Texas Scorecard at the Texas GOP convention, joined by the greatest attorney general in the country, Ken Paxton, Texas Attorney General. I'm so happy that you're here. So, General, before I want to talk about just kind of the legislature and what that's going to look like in the next session, but I want to ask you your thoughts on Senator John Cornyn.
I've heard of him.
Showing up at this, literally right behind me. I spoke with him and I asked him a few questions, General. Number one, why are you sending all of our money to Ukraine? Number two, why did you call Ken Paxton a criminal? And he didn't have an answer for me.
I'm not surprised. It was unjustified. He has political reasons. I mean, let's just face it. The guy was put where he was put by the Bushes, and he's beholden to the Bushes. He was the guy that passed the Robin. He's the guy judicially who created Robin Hood, which is a wealth redistribution system for our schools, and he did it for George W. Bush, and they took care of him. They made him AG. They made him a U.S. Senator, and he's been answering to those type of people ever since he got to Washington. He is not answering to the people of Texas, and that's why he would not answer a constituent's question, a reasonable question that he should answer when you asked it.
Right, because when you look at all of the work that you are doing to fight back against the Biden administration with how many lawsuits now?
75.
Congrats, 75, that's great. And so, you look at all of this, exactly, and you look at all of this, all of the tyranny and the government overreach. How can you possibly defend a senator from the state of Texas fighting against someone who's fighting back?
Well, and look at it. Look at his career. He's been there for 14 years. And I challenge you, I can't come up with it. What has he done good for the people of Texas?
Nothing.
I know the things that he's done that are not good for us. He is beholden to the people in Washington, the lobbyists, the special interests, and the leadership. He is not beholden to the people of Texas, and he's proven it by not listening to people like you when you ask a very simple question.
Yeah, I noticed he talks a tough game on Twitter. Or X now, as it's called. Tough talk on Twitter and can't answer a constituent's question. So
I'm not surprised. He's been doing that for 14 years as a U.S. Senator. It's time for a change. There's no way that he should be leadership of our party up there, and there's no way that he should be reelected as a U.S. Senator in Texas.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. So we're here at the convention, Memorial Day weekend. Your Memorial Day weekend last year looked a little bit different. I recall talking to a state legislator, I won't say their name, but I had him on the phone while they were deliberating whether or not they were going to vote to impeach you. And I said, do not do this. This will be the greatest mistake that you will make. Do not do this. And we all know how that went. And I want to hear your thoughts on reflecting, it was a year ago, and it feels like you've gone through hell and back, and somehow you're even stronger.
Yeah, I honestly think that the impeachment ended up being a good thing for me. It ended up being a good thing for the state of Texas. It was done in the worst possible way, no due process. I wasn't allowed to respond. I didn't have any, I wasn't shown any evidence. I didn't get to even know who the witnesses were, let alone hear sworn testimony. The process, the bad process, the lack of due process, highlighted to the voters of Texas, the Republican voters of Texas, the implicit problem and the explicit problem of the Texas House. And so as a result, it's created a momentum to finally change the House, which has been corrupt and which has not listened to the voters of Texas, has not listened to the Republican voters. And so in some ways, it's been the greatest blessing of my life to go and highlight and now have an opportunity to change this disaster in the Texas House that Dade Phelan has led for the last several years.
And I'm very encouraged, especially after being here with all of the grassroots, I'm very encouraged that the next session, it's going to be a completely different legislature. It's going to be a completely different makeup.
Because the voters have figured it out, and they have they're going to elect new people. And I'm begging people to get out on May 28th to vote for your person who is in the runoff, because it's so important, because so few people are going to show up. You're voting for like 20 people. But I truly believe we've got the best opportunity we've ever had if the new people will stick together and they will fight for the people of Texas and not listen to the Austin lobby and the bureaucrats and the leadership who will try to direct them a different way. If they will just hold on to what they ran on and the people of their district, we will change Texas for the better.
What do you think that there's something, if you could name one thing that the legislators could do, and I see one right out here, Brian Harrison.
I'm going
to put you on the spot, Brian. Listen up, all right? What is something that the legislature could do that would just make your job so much easier?
Two things. One is reauthorize me to prosecute voter fraud, because right now that's up to local DAs, many of them Soros elected.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get prosecution of voter fraud. And you can see we had 900 cases when the Court of Criminal Appeals struck it down. Who's prosecuting it now? No one. Mm-mm. So those all got dismissed. People are getting away with voter fraud, and then nothing's happening. Second, give concurrent jurisdiction to the Attorney General to prosecute other crimes that these local district attorneys will not prosecute. Whether it's related to abortion, whether it's related to human trafficking, whatever it's related to, they are not doing their job anymore. They're using it as a political place to go after people they don't like instead of prosecuting real crimes. If the legislature would create a backup like most states have, it would help protect Texas from rampant crime and the Soros DAs not enforcing Texas law.
Yeah, I mean, Daniel Perry is a great example of that. You have this Democrat DA, Jose Garza, who, I mean, you want to talk about George Soros funded DAs, that's him. And so instead of prosecuting, those illegal encampment people who were out on the UT campus,
or the BLM Antifa rioters,
he's dropping charges on them, but he is, of course, prosecuting and charging Jose Garza.
So you're right. So if the legislature cares about justice, if they care about the rule of law, if they want to protect citizens of our state from crime and bad things, they will fix this, and they will give us resources, and they will change the law so that we can be a backup if the local district attorney is going to ignore laws and overrule the legislature, because that's what they're doing. They're saying, look, I don't care what the legislature said, I don't care what the law is, I don't follow it. I do what George Soros tells me to, and if the legislature puts up with that, they are dooming us to failure. They are dooming this state to be turned over to the Democrats.
Yeah, and that's what I think that people need to understand so clearly is that you can have the strongest self-defense laws, 2A laws. You can have the strongest laws in the world, but if you have a DA who is not going to follow them, none of it matters.
Right, and I get asked all the time by constituents, why don't you do this? Why don't you prosecute that? And I'm like, I can't. I have no authority. The legislature has the ability to give it to me, and they haven't done it. They need to do it soon, or we will be in trouble. Yeah. We already are in trouble because of this.
Yeah. I think that I'm encouraged. Seeing all of these grassroots here, hearing the priorities, that we're talking about here at the convention, stopping the sexualization of children, securing the border, election integrity I saw at the top of the list earlier. I mean, these are really big issues here in the state of Texas that under Dade Phelan's leadership, we have not seen solved at all. In fact, put on the back burner. And I'm really encouraged that we're going to get these things done.
Yes, Dade is beholden to one group, but mainly one group of people, the Democrats. Yeah. 65 Democrats get him elected because he only needs 676 votes. What I love about this convention, what I love about the people that come here, they do it all on their own dime. They come here for free. They give their time. They care about certain issues that are fundamental to Texas being a great place to live and work and raise your family. And they have tried to communicate that to the legislature. And Dade Phelan, unlike the Senate, has said, no, I'm not interested in what you're saying. I don't care about your priorities. I am going to answer to other people that control my agenda. The lobby, the bureaucrats, the Biden administration, I'm not exaggerating, and the Democrats in the Texas House. That's who he's beholden to. And if we put up with that, then we deserve what we get. And these people here don't want that.
Yeah, exactly right. I so appreciate you and all the great work that you're doing here for the state of Texas. Like I said, the best attorney general in the country, and it's not even close. All right? And I just want to ask you one last question. Can we primary John Cornyn? Is there someone, can you think of anyone that we could maybe primary John Cornyn?
I think it's in the cards. Let's just say.
Okay.
I think there's a really good chance that that'll happen.
Okay, all right. I'll take that.
All right.
Thank you. Ken
Thank you.
Paxton. All right, welcome back to Come and Take It. I am Sara Gonzales here with Texas Scorecard at the Republican Convention here in San Antonio. I'm joined by Corey DeAngelis, of course, author of The Parent Revolution, and just all-around fighter, advocate for our children to get a proper education and not indoctrination. Corey, I'm so glad that you're here.
Hey, thanks for having me. I actually live in San Antonio. I grew up here too.
Really? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it was a 30-minute drive, not too far.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, because you're traveling the country fighting for this, so I didn't actually know that your roots are in Texas. So, okay, so then tell me, I want to talk a little bit about your book, but I want to start here in the state of Texas. How embarrassing is it that we don't have school choice yet?
It's a national embarrassment. We should have been leading on the issue. Now we're following on the issue, but we're going to have universal school choice next year, especially after the Super Duper Tuesday, where 10 of the 13 anti-school choice incumbents we targeted for voting against education freedom, their own Republican Party platform, they either lost their elections outright or they were forced into runoff. So look, you play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
So tell me about your book here, The Parent Revolution, Rescuing Your Kids from the Radicals Ruining Our Schools.
Yeah, look, it was endorsed by Donald Trump last week, and guess what? It's now a national bestseller. It's funny how that works. Ted Cruz, who will be here today with selling his book, Unwoke, which is also a great one, he's on the back of the book, and he says, you can ruin Randy Weingarten's day by reading this book. So thank you, Senator Cruz. But the teachers' unions really overplayed their hand and have awakened a sleeping giant, which happens to be parents who want more of a say in their kids' education. Through remote learning, which we really should have just called it remotely learning. There wasn't a lot of learning going on. I mean, they were fear-mongering every step of the way. They were lobbying the CDC to make the schools closed as long as possible, putting fake body bags and tombstones up to say that they could not go back to work. It was total hypocrisy, too. They were vacationing in Puerto Rico, thousands of miles away, while railing against going back to work in person. One union, the Chicago Teachers Union, they actually deleted a tweet, I'm sure you remember this one, where they said that the push to reopen schools is rooted in sexism, racism, and misogyny. They threw everything at the wall, every buzzword, socialist word, and they just held children's education hostage. But families got to see through the Zoom school what was happening in their kids' classroom. And this is important for Republicans, as conservatives, as independents even. You can't just win this battle to change the culture and direction of our country just by outpopulating them. You can't just have more kids, because they're using the school system, the radical left, to churn out Democrat voters year after year, and they're using the school system to do it. As Vodi Bakum once said, we cannot continue to send our children to Caesar for their education and be surprised when they come home as Romans. Well, parents aren't surprised anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I always say if there is a silver lining, or maybe a couple silver linings from COVID, it would be, number one, of course, that parents were forced to listen to what was going on, what their teachers were talking about, the lack of education that their children were getting in things that actually matter, and all of the indoctrination that they were getting instead. And then, of course, as an aside, the other one that I say is it awoken people to Big Pharma and the evils that are coming from that. But, I mean, you're talking about, I just want to stress how evil these teachers' unions were. Because not only were they fighting to keep children from being able to get a proper education, all they were doing, they used COVID. They used all of these elderly people being forced into nursing homes and dying. They used that as an opportunity to get higher pay, to get better vacation, to get all of these pet projects that they wanted passed through, because they thought that that was their bargaining chip. And so I think that that's what people need to understand, is that we've got all these education associations, we've got all these teachers unions, we've got all of these educators, and anyone who's listening on audio podcast, I'm using air quotes for that word. Yeah. We've got all these educators who want to get together and tell you what's best for your kid. And if you actually look at who is behind all of these unions, all of these boards, all of these associations, it's just people who want more for themselves. It's never about the kids.
Yeah, the reality is the government school system has become more of a jobs program for adults than an education initiative for kids. If you think about it, nationally, we've increased funding by 170% since 1970 after adjusting for inflation. But since 2000, the number of students in the system has increased by about 7%, not too much, but the number of administrators in the system has increased by, you guessed it, 90%.
Yeah, that's incredible.
There are so many people in the buildings, but I actually wanted to turn to the beginning of the book really quickly. For anybody listening and watching, I actually dedicated the book to Randi Weingarten and the teachers unions for overplaying their hand and inadvertently doing more to advance school choice and homeschooling than anyone could have ever imagined.
Yeah.
They really overplayed their hand. They've been stepping in it over and over again. A couple of years ago, I wake up sometimes, it's true. I woke up for today. I'm actually pretty proud of myself.
Congrats.
But a couple of years ago, I thought I was in a nightmare. I thought it was a Babylon Bee headline. It wasn't. It was a tweet by Randi Weingarten herself. And what did she say? She was in Ukraine at the front lines to assess the situation. What was the teachers union boss from America doing in Ukraine? Haven't the Ukrainian kids already suffered enough? You already ruined our schools.
Right.
What was she going to do? Make the war go remote like she did with our schools? That might actually help.
Yeah.
But they've just been overly politicized. They're focusing on indoctrination, not on education. They're focusing on the LGBTs, not the ABCs.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't be surprised when kids are coming home, not learning anything important, but they'll tell you they don't know if they're a boy or girl.
Yeah. So I want to ask you, because I do know some conservatives who are a little bit hesitant about school choice, a little bit critical of school choice, and they worry that that is actually going to backfire and give government more power. What would you say to those people?
The government can already regulate private and home education today. We got to take the W or else we're going to be stuck with the L. And it's not really complicated. Are you on Joe Biden's side or are you on Donald Trump's side?
Right.
Are you on Randi Weingarten's side or are you on Governor Abbott's side? Are you on Beto O'Rourke's side or are you on our side? It's a very simple discussion, but at the same time, look, we got to take the incremental step in the right direction. It might be not be perfect. You might want to abolish the schools. You might want to abolish all teachers unions. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. But we got to take the W. And politics, as you know, is all about organized interests fighting for what they want. When you have school choice, more people can benefit from private and home education and fight back against authoritarian overreach in the future because you'll have more people on your side, a broader coalition. And guess what? Real quickly, Oregon actually outlawed private education back in 1922. Anybody remember this? In 1925, thankfully, the Supreme Court in Pierce versus Society of Sisters overturned that bigoted law when the court famously said, "The child is not the mere creature of the state." Some people will be wise to remember that today. I'm looking at you, Joe Biden, who tweeted out that there's no such thing as other people's kids. It's society's children.
Yeah.
And Michigan Democratic Party has also tweeted out that
straight from the Communist Playbook, by the way.
It's plank number 8, I believe, in the Communist Manifesto, because they know that in order to get to socialism, they have to use the schools to control the minds of other people's children. They don't just have a monopoly on money, they have a monopoly on your children's upbringing, and that's a problem. That's why they fight against school choice harder than anybody else. And guess what? Delegates, if you're here today in the auditorium, in the exhibit hall, this should be the number one thing that you put on the Republican platform. We should have the votes for it next year. But look, all the other problems are downstream from education. Even if you can homeschool your own kids, I think that's a great thing to do. Other people's kids are learning to like big government as the solution to all of their problems. It's not the solution, and we got to fight to take back our schools. We got to strike at the root, make school choice the number one priority for the legislature next year.
Yeah, I mean, it seems so simple to me because I'm like, as conservatives, we are pro-capitalism, we are pro-free market, and that's exactly how the school system should work. You should be able to choose which school you want to send your kids to based on the performance of the schools, the performance of the teachers, the caliber of the teachers, the quality of the school. This is very simple to me because that's how a free market works. Once you make it more competitive, then the teachers actually have to compete and make sure that the kids are learning what the parents want them to learn. It just seems so simple to me.
It is simple. It's the logical thing to do. It's the moral thing to do. It's the right thing to do. But it's also a political winner. There wasn't a red wave or a blue wave in 2022, but there was a school choice wave. 69 of the incumbents we targeted for being against school choice in 2022, 40 of them lost.
Wow.
So that's basically impossible. It's the hardest thing to do in politics, to take out a sitting legislature. But for Republicans in particular, you can get super majorities this way. Look at what happened in Florida. It was a purplish state. DeSantis barely won in 2018. In 2022, he won by 20 points, and they now have super majorities in the legislature. The headline in the Wall Street Journal the next day in 2018 after he won was that, quote, school choice moms tipped the governor's race for DeSantis. You can get votes from families who would have never agreed with you on anything else, but they want their kid to get a better education, a better future. Exit polling in Florida found that black moms in particular came out in force for DeSantis in 2018 because his opponent wanted to get rid of the school choice program where their kids were getting a better education.
Yeah.
So this is a political winner, the right thing to do, and we're going to get it done in Texas next year.
We are. We're going to get it done next year, next session. A lot of thanks goes to you, Corey, for all of your hard work in the school choice issue. It is so needed. And by the way, I say this as a mom who I had my kids in a private Christian school. That school wasn't making the cut. I had concerns about teacher overreach and abuse of power, and I'm homeschooling my kid next year.
That's the way to do it. And
Yeah.
I have a baby coming on the way as well.
Yeah.
Miranda's here. Angelina's on the way. Her first GOP convention.
Aww,
So, yeah, I think
congratulations.
homeschooling is the way to do it because, look, no matter what you're doing with choosing a school, you're outsourcing parenting to
Yes.
someone else. And you're more likely to get a better fit if you're
Yeah.
choosing a private school or maybe hey, if you like your public school, you can keep your public school. For real this time. Thanks,
Yeah,
Obama,
yeah.
unlike with your doctor. But you can the public schools do up their game in response to competition.
Right.
This is a rising tide that lifts all boats. Families win, obviously. They get a choice. But the public schools do better as well because they have to. They up their game. It's a rising tide that lifts all boats. And guess what? A teachers union boss out in Wisconsin actually called to burn my book. The same yahoos that are calling us the book banners, it's Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals. They accuse everyone else of what they are doing. They
course.
want to burn and ban our ideas, even for adults, when we just want age-appropriate content in public school libraries.
Of course. Corey, thank you so much for all of your work. I know those of you who are here watching, he does have his book available right here, and he can sign it for you if you'd like to purchase his book, so make sure that you check that out. And then for those who are watching or listening, where can they get the book?
You can get it anywhere. You can Google or use any other search engine, The Parent Revolution. It's a national bestseller. Trump just endorsed it last week. I'm super happy. Ted Cruz, if he's here already, I'm not sure. Thank you for your endorsement as well. He says on the back,
Thanks,
you can
Ted.
ruin Randy Weingarten's day by reading this book. But yeah, you can find it anywhere. Please come find me at the Texas Scorecard booth. I'll be signing books. The signatures are free. Pretty good deal, eh?
Thank you so much, Corey.
Thank you.